episode 35 of the Football Journals, and we've got a sponsor, Ryan. We've got a sponsor for the year. It took us 18 months to get there, but we're finally hitting a bit of popularity with this podcast. So thank you to Chris Foot, Elgin City Director, Elgin City Women's Director, for sponsoring the podcast. You'll be hearing his name quite a lot throughout 2025. Get down and watch an Elgin game, absolutely flying just now. Get down and watch an Elgin women's game, absolutely flying just now. There's silverware for one of them teams at the minimum this season, so please get yourself along a game soon. Now we're back into episode again. Episode 35, we're back with Highland League, and we've got a bit of a goal machine in the Highland League. That's the kind of general consensus. Conor Gethins, welcome to you, sir. How are you?
Good, yeah, good, thanks. Pleasure to be here. I've watched a few episodes, which is really interesting.
I'm glad to hear it, mate. Things are going pretty well for you just now, management?
Yeah, probably 2 years ahead of schedule, to be honest, but
yeah,
we'll ride the wave while we can.
You got to, mate.
Yeah, and everybody in the background's helped as well, with the new chairman and the new board have really pushed on with us and given us the finances that we needed to do what we've done, bringing in Joe Mallon and Josh Meekins and Gav Morris, for example, was a huge boost for the club and a huge boost for the players as well, to be honest, seeing that the quality was there and the experience. So yeah, it's been a very good start to the season. Last year was obviously cutting our teeth.
Yeah,
it's my first job in management and Robbie Duncanson's first job in a coaching role as well, and we've probably had to learn very quickly from where we were last year, but to go from second bottom at the end of the last season to sitting fourth in New Year is pretty impressive, and it's down to the boys,
Yeah,
we only guide them, we only tell them where we want them to be, for example, and the fitness work, and it's all on them. Once they go over the white line, it's all on them. So it's all fair play to them. It's been brilliant.
Long may it continue, mate.
Hope so.
Always start off with the same as I've just said to you, Conor. So, how good a football player were you as a kid, and what age did you realise you had a bit of potential?
I think I always, my self-belief has always been there. I always knew that there was something there. I was pretty quick and I had an eye for goal. But it took me probably until I was like 23 to have that proper eye for goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, growing up, never without a football. I used to have to walk a mile to town to meet my friends, and I used to basically do kiki ups the whole way down. Yeah. And quite a few times as a youngster, I couldn't do it now, I would not drop the ball in a mile, so I knew I had something there, and I had the pace. But my friends were all into football as well, so it kind of helped. As soon as we would meet up, it would be some form of a game,
Aye.
And it was always intense at that age. There was always a bit of bite, bit of needle fights, but then all mates at the end of it, But yeah, it's something I always wanted to do. I wanted to live that dream.
Yeah.
Got there eventually. Took me a long time to get there. Did a lot with the schools, like Ulster schools. We would go to a competition and they would pick a team from all different schools, and I eventually got picked to represent Ulster schools.
Yeah.
So we went to Wales for the Inrush tournament, and first game we played Port Vale, and I scored a hat-trick.
Nice.
And it sort of just went from there. Danny MacDonald and Ronnie Duncan were there with Ross County.
Yeah.
And just by chance they were watching the game, and straight after the game Danny was over saying, "What's your name? Where are you from? Pretty well done, blah blah blah." And that was it, really, And throughout the week Danny would touch base with me, and in that game I actually hurt my thigh, and Ross County offered me their services of their physio, which was quite rare. I was only 13 at the time, but even then, I'll get to Danny in a second anyways, even then they were keen to help me out and would go see their physio a couple of times a day, and then we played Ross County.
Yeah.
I didn't score that day, but I think they beat us 2-1. I think. But yeah, they came to watch us then in the next round, and I scored a penalty, pulled thigh. But kind of my mentality, even at that age, if unless my legs hanging off me, I was going to play on,
Aye.
So after that, Danny said to me, "Listen, we would like you to come over to Scotland on trial." And that was me, that my focus then switched completely from home, school, to this is my chance.
Yes.
Nothing's going to stop me. So, yeah, went away, had some contact with them, came back home, told my mum and dad. They were delighted for me, but obviously in their mind, school.
Yes. Aye.
So that was fine. So I went on trial. Unfortunately for me, on the Saturday before I went over for the trials, I was playing in the men's league at home, so I was good enough to go in there, and I was good enough to actually play a few games with my dad as well, which was nice.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
But the Saturday before, playing the men's game, ball over the top, looking at it, ran onto it, lobbed it over the keeper, but this man of 30 odd years of age came out knees first, hit me square in the face, broke my nose.
Jesus.
So I rocked up to Ross County, a young thug from Ireland, black eyes, busted nose, and I'm sure they probably thought, "What have we got here?" And had the trial, did everything they wanted me to do. I played in a game, scored, and Danny said, "Listen, we want to sign you," and that was me. That was my mind then, solely focused on that. And he said to me, "We want you to come after your school and finish your last year," because I had another year of school to go. I says, "No." I says, I'm coming now, like I'm ready to. I said that to my mum, and they said, "You do what you need to do." I was quite streetwise. So away I went, left home at 15.
Wow.
On my own to a different country. How my mum and dad put me on a plane at 15, I have no idea, because my little boy's 12 now, and I personally don't think he's ready even like in 3 years to do what I did,
Aye.
But I think maybe they had the comfort of, we know who you are. You never come home to 10 o'clock at night anyways.
Yeah.
And having to walk through the fields and the roads in the darkness. So I think that was maybe a comfort for them as well. And yeah, away I went. 15, moved into digs with 12 guys. A lot of Glaswegians and boys from Edinburgh who are pretty thick-skinned, So probably helped me along the way, because you had to be thick-skinned, you had to look after yourself, and you had to come back at people when they would try and walk over the top of you, and they tried, but I was quite good like that, but yeah, Danny McDonald, what can I say, one of the best guys I've ever met in football.
We've had a few mentions of Danny on here before.
Yeah, made you feel 10 foot tall regardless of what was happening around you. We always had a good connection, I moved in with his auntie after 6 months at Ross County, because I was being a little toe rag in Dingwall. So it was a case of, you either go and live with my auntie in Inverness, or you go back home. And I said, I'll go and live with your auntie. And I was there for 4 years. Best thing I ever done.
Yeah.
Because she was like a mother from home. She looked after me. She cooked me all my meals, and she would look out for me. So yeah, Danny was honestly amazing for me. He fathered me basically when I came over. Myself and Sean Webb, he came over a few months after me, and even to this day we're still very, very close. My wee boy goes, he's coaching school at the minute, and yeah, you'll never hear me say a bad word about Danny. Good coach, would join in training sometimes. And like a raging bull.
Yes.
In training. No matter what age we were, 15, 16, he would be
on you.
Very, very physical with us. And I think that was him saying, this is where you need to be. This is the mentality you need to have. You need to be 100%. And that's what Danny was, And I think I learnt a lot from him on the mentality side of things, as in, which I try and implement right now with my own boys: intensity, aggression, intensity.
It's massive.
Fitness, being brave, So yeah, that was my journey. But yeah, I knew that from a young age that I would be a footballer, because nothing was standing in my way. Even when we were young in school, we would go away to competitions, and there would be scouts there, and they would come over to other players.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there knowing that I'm good enough, but they may have shown a wee bit on the side, but they never carried on, whereas my mentality was, I'm doing it regardless. And lived a dream for a short period of time and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's the 1%, you know.
Yes.
It's the 1%. It's
Yeah.
It's not. Some people see it as playing down the achievement, but you're still the elite out of. Like I think of when I go back and I think of younger players I played with, like the really good players when I was at school didn't make it.
Yeah.
Like the 1% made it. Like the 1% of players that made it when I was at school is Brian Carman, and he's the captain of Elgin City now. He's the 1%.
Yep.
There's a couple of guys that made it in the Highland League, but after that, there's nobody. There were hundreds of kids that played football, you know. So it's you've got to push yourself to get to these levels, and
Yeah, absolutely.
you've obviously reaped the benefits from it, mate. Just a quick question, kind of going back to your early days. Did you ever play the other form of football in Ireland?
Yeah, I played Gaelic. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. That's probably toughened me up as well, because you could get hit really hard, and it's allowed.
Yeah. Because
But
we
I
hear
loved
that quite a lot with guys from Ireland that definitely brought on their own game playing both sports.
Absolutely, it's because it's similar. You know, you still have to move, you still have to get in positions where you can score. And you knew what was coming if you let your guard down. There could be a 6'4" man coming at you at
Yeah.
a serious pace, and he doesn't care what size you are. He's going to take you out of it.
Aye.
So that probably helped me as well, being clever, as in use your head more than use your legs.
Absolutely,
You know, I
yeah.
was really, really fast. Could run the 100 metres in 11 seconds, but that can only get you so far.
Aye.
And the Gaelic football was a great test for me, because I was hit a few times and I thought, I'm not getting myself in that position again. So I started using my head more.
Absolutely. Who's your football idol growing up?
I loved watching my dad, to be honest. Like, you know, he was a goal scorer. He was my biggest critic, which is good. It's healthy.
Yep.
I would always go and watch his games. He actually played with Shay Given. He was in the same team as when Shay Given got spotted to go to Celtic.
Wow.
And I remember that game very, very well. It was actually in Dundalk in the quarterfinals of the All-Ireland amateur football team. Michael Owen was somebody I looked at and thought, that's who I was. That was my game, running off the shoulder, and he was one that I thought, that's me.
Yeah.
Run off the shoulder, really quick, could score a goal. But yeah, my dad and Michael Owen, probably the ones that I would look back in my youth and say, that's me. Because my dad was short, he was quick, he was sharp, and keeps telling me he scored 70 goals in a season.
Yep.
At an amateur level, like, you know, which is still no mean feat, you know, like, it's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how he never went further, probably could have. But my dad liked to play with his mates, and he was in the army, and he had relocated and things like that from down the country back up to where we are just now. And yeah, he's somebody I look up to a lot in that side of things. And even to this day, he told me his team won 11-1. He scored 10 by half time and got taken off. You know, so he always keeps me on my toes, and he'll always drop me a text just even now and say, tough game at the weekend, and always looking out for the results and things.
I love that answer. I absolutely love that answer, just because that's personal, and you don't often get that. We hear Messi, we hear Ronaldo all the time, but that's someone else. It's great, mate. You kind of hit the ground running with Ross County. Like, you got a good run early on. I think I looked up your it's 10 and 60. Is that right enough? That
just be in and around that. I think
goals. Yeah,
in and around that. I think it may have been 15 or 16 all in. But yeah, I was a goal scorer, but my problem was I was too quick for my own good.
Yeah.
100 mile an hour all the time.
Legs ahead of the brain.
Correct. would blow up 65, 70 minutes into games because I would literally run the channel for 70 minutes.
Yeah.
Probably killed my future for football further down the line. Hamstring tears. One would go, come back. The other one would go, and it was kind of a repeat for me. But loved the Ross County time. Learned a lot. Obviously, Neil Cooper gave me my chance to my debut, and Danny McDonald was on the bench at that time as well. He was the assistant manager. So yeah, Ross County days were good. Lived that dream. Mm-hmm. The dream quickly comes to an end when the time comes. Yeah. Met some friends there that I'm still friends with today, and yeah, good memories. Really good memories.
Brilliant. Right, my favourite 2 questions of the podcast. Who's the best player you've played with in your career?
Easy, Robbie Duncanson.
Yeah.
And no, you don't even need to think about that one. I think because we're both of similar stature, we're small. I was quick. I was relatively quick at Nairn, but wasn't as quick as what I was. We had a weird relationship, as in we didn't even have to look. We just knew where each other were.
Yeah.
It was strange. It was just telepathic. I would literally just have to shout Robbie on when he's got the ball, and he would literally just turn and play me. Mm-hmm. And 99% of the time it was accurate.
Yeah. And
for a guy who wasn't quick at all, and I keep telling my players now this, at Clark, nobody could get near Robbie. Nobody. He was quicker running with the ball than he was without the ball, which is strange. He had that sort of awareness when he was even dribbling the ball that nobody could really get near him. He would position himself that if they were near him, they were going to take him out of the game.
Yeah.
Technically incredible, Mm-hmm. Volley, half volley, ball on the deck. Incredibly good at using his body to protect the ball and shield the ball, even though he wasn't quick.
I think it was a low centre of gravity or something.
I don't know. I think it was just his head and his brain. His brain was brilliant. It was just. I used to just peel off the shoulder of the defender. I was always on the blind side of the defender, anyways.
Yeah.
But as soon as he got the ball at his feet, he just do that, and it was literally exactly where I would want it. Mm-hmm. And he's very quick to remind me that he assisted me in a lot of my goals at Nairn. But yeah, thankful for and playing with a player like Robbie,
Yeah.
And somebody who I trust 100% as well, and that's why I asked him to come in with me now.
Yeah.
He's a pest. He's a nuisance. He's relentless, but I love him. Mm-hmm. He's so infectious, and he was infectious at Nairn, and we're probably quite similar as in personalities, and even now he's so infectious around the change room.
Yeah.
He could make light of moments of me being a bit of a loose cannon to bringing the change room to laughter.
Yeah.
But football wise, exceptional.
Yeah.
Just incredible. Just score a goal from halfway line and volley a ball in from the edge of the box.
Yeah.
And on the same note, he could line up to hit a shot, and you would see maybe 3 or 4 defenders sliding, and all he would do would reverse pass it to me, and then leave me with a one-on-one with a goalie. And just an easy answer for me.
I'm just kind of, based on how often I ask people who have played this question, do you think that answer, and I've not asked this before, but I've had similar answers. Do you think your answer is based on how easy he made the game for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I always made those runs throughout my whole career.
Yep. Even
when I was at Finn Harps and stuff like that, there was another striker there at Finn Harps that was similar to Robbie.
Yeah.
We'll get there eventually. He always reminds me that he has assisted all my goals, but I always remind him that it was my runs that made his passes good.
You got to make the run to get the pass?
And I says, where's your strikers from years gone past that made those runs for you? But I loved playing with him. I love playing with him. Even now in training, when we join in training, if we're in the same team, I'll still make the runs. He still sees them.
Yeah.
You know, and even he joins in. He was even joining in training last night, and he's got the ball at his feet, and boys can't get the ball off him. Like, you know, he's 40-year-old, and boys are 19, 20, and they still can't get near him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's different in the sense that he's got the arrogance that I had to be a good footballer, if that makes sense. I think you need to have that arrogance to succeed and to be the best at what we do. And I think that's maybe why we work so well together. I think I wish I had a Robbie Duncanson beside me for 24 years, to be honest. I probably would have scored double the goals.
That's a brilliant answer. Flip side of the question, who's the best player you played against?
This is another easy one, and I'm going to continue to bring this more to Highland League than anything else, just for the people that are watching. Played against some incredible players. Mitch Megginson, for example.
Good player, yeah.
Daryl Nicholl was an excellent player. Danny Milne, Martin Johnson. But for me, Sam Mackay was a different level.
Wow.
Sam Mackay was a player that I think could have played Scottish Premier League if his head was fully on it.
Yep.
I've met him recently in an event in a hotel. We were actually at the event, but he gate crashed it because he was down with his wife, and he came down to see myself and Robbie. And I said to him at that moment, obviously we had a few drinks and everything, and I said to him, I was like, you annoy me so much. And he's like, why? And I says, because you are the most talented footballer I've ever played against. Out with Paddy McCourt, he is the most talented. Purely the fact that if he turned up when he was at Wick, we knew we were in bother. Because he wasn't quick, but once he dropped that shoulder and went, you were nowhere to be seen. His awareness, his ball control, his speed of thought, just everything. He was just exceptional. And I think a lot of people that are watching us today will say he was a special talent. Just didn't maybe apply himself to the standard that he and his potential that he could have went to. You know, he was a special player.
You hear that so often.
Yeah, and I'm gutted for him because he could have had a fine career.
Yeah.
But yeah, spoke about him last week. It was literally myself and Robbie spoke about him last week, and we said that we used to hate playing against Wick because if Sam Mackay turned up, we were in bother. Yeah.
Okay, we kind of touched on it a little bit before. So we return back to Ireland. Finn Harps and Galway. Goal scoring records right, very good at both clubs. I think you're about 1 and 2 kind of ratio for both clubs. We'll speak about Finn Harps because I know a little bit about Finn Harps. I'm not saying I sit and watch Irish football. I know Finn Harps from playing Football Manager back in the day. I used to play Irish leagues and things like that. How did that kind of come about going back?
That was probably the best thing that ever happened to me as a footballer. I was at Ross County in the comfort zone.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people and a lot of players who are at a club at a young age, when they're progressing through, they're happy, they're comfortable, they don't want to leave. But Alex Smith came in at the time. Maybe I had a chip on my shoulder. Maybe we didn't. I don't think we seen eye to eye. He was a nice man, but football wise, we kind of clashed. Maybe because I was quite mouthy and wouldn't have accepted some of the decisions, you know. And maybe that arrogance of a footballer, and then the ego that sort of knocks you off the rails as such. But when he came in, he took a lot of his Dundee United players with him, and like myself and Sean Webb and Steve Mackay, Sid Mackay, and all, like we sort of were pushed to the side and came to the end of the contract, no longer required. So that was a funny time for me because that was the first time in my life that I wasn't wanted. Left home at 15, no education. what do I do next? Didn't have an agent. So I was meant to go to Millwall and trial, but in the off season I dislocated my shoulder.
Right.
So
playing football?
No, just went home and it just actually happened in a swimming pool, which was funny.
Right.
Sorry, that was the second time I dislocated my shoulder. That was the first time I did it when I was at Ross County.
Yeah.
So I was in no man's land. I was out for 4 to 5 months, and nobody wanted an injured player because they wanted to hit their ground running for pre-season. The Millwall thing crashed. Phone my dad, says, what am I going to do now? He says, get yourself home, see what happens from there. But in the meantime, the Finn Harps manager contacted my dad and said, listen, we would like to take him in for the last 13 games of the season. So I says, listen, I'll go. I was back fit, I was back, my shoulder was fine. So I went back and played for the last 13 games of the season and sort of played off the left wing. And because I was still really quick, kind of got bums off the seats as such, and scored a few goals. And
exciting
really
kind of player.
Yeah, just off the cuff, like I would shoot from 40 yards randomly.
Yeah.
And they asked me to sign a permanent 2-year contract, and I says, you know what, why not? So I did, and got back playing, got back being one of the main boys, and scored a few goals. Tough league.
Yeah.
Tough league.
Yeah.
But financial difficulties hit Finn Harps at that moment, and they needed to offload some of their big earners for a period of time. Hence why I went to Galway. And that's when things really changed for me as a player. That's when I started to become a goal scorer.
Yep.
And I know that my ratio may seem that I was a goal scorer, but I wasn't really a goal scorer. The manager was Tony Cousins. Tony Cousins used to be at Liverpool as a youth or as a player. I can't really remember exactly. Few games of Galway, pulled me in, says, you're no use to me. I was like, well, why? He goes, you need to change your game. I says, but my game's fine. I'm quick. Nobody can get near me. And he goes, you need to start becoming a player who can take the ball in. You need to start being a player like more physical. You need to be braver. And I thought I was brave and physical. So he says, you either let me come and work with you or you go back. And that was it. And we really worked hard on back to goal, how to protect myself against bigger defenders and using my head more. So that was brilliant.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from that spell and got into the team of the year and everything, scored, had to compete against a really good striker and a boy called Alan Murphy, both similar. So really had to compete against him, eventually pushed him to the side of the team and I sort of went in. But then the season had ended and then I went back to Finn Harps and really, really pushed on there.
Yep.
Won Player of the Year in the Irish League as well. And yeah, did really well there and really enjoyed Finn Harps. Really, really good club. A club that is one club in the whole county.
Yes, aye.
Now you think of the whole county as in the whole of the Highlands, for example, as a comparison, the one club in the whole of the Highlands.
Yeah.
That's the type of stature it was. When you weren't doing well, you know yourself, the fans are not quite there. You maybe get 600. But the year we got promoted, 5,500, 6,000 at games.
Yes, that's huge.
Which is massive,
Yeah.
And I thrived off that. I thrived off that as any player who's got an ego and is scoring would.
Yeah.
And yeah, I loved it. I loved it there so much. And that's when I really kicked on. Really kicked on as a player. Scored a lot of goals.
You said it's one of your most enjoyable spells of your career.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so. Being one of the main guys, playing every week, it was one of those, the manager at the time was Paul Hegarty. Really intense, really intense manager. Loved football, loved us as players, do anything for us. we turned up one day.
Paul Haggerty that ended up at Portsmouth.
No, it's a different Paul Haggerty.
Haggerty,
He was more in the League of Ireland and the Northern Ireland leagues and things. Bit of a crazy manager. Loved him. Loved his personality. We would turn up for it was summer football.
Yeah,
it was Friday night, Saturday night football. Brilliant.
Yeah,
it was just class. It was just
yeah.
class, and we would turn up, and he's on the park with a fireman's hose. He was a farmer. Brought up a water pump from the farm, the river out the back of Finn Park. You would put the hose into the river with the pump and a hose that was maybe 50, 60 feet long. And he stood from 12 o'clock in the day to 6 o'clock at night to kick-off time, watering the park. Just really intense, really loved the team, really wanted us to be successful.
Yeah.
And I think that rubbed off on him. And that's another one that I've learned a lot of, as in be intense, the players will buy into it. And it was one of the team talks was he would go through individual players and he would come to myself and he would just say, just do what you do. And I think that as a striker gives you the freedom to go and express yourself and go and make mistakes, because you only learn if you make mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, and I think him doing that for me really kick-started me in the Finn Harps side of things, as in go and score goals. You know, and I think that helped me become a better player, but probably kick-started me to be the player I am. Well, I'm not anymore, but the player who I was when I came to the Highland League.
Freedom to be a bit more creative within your own game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Return to Scotland, Peterhead. I'm an Elgin man, so I'm not the greatest of Peterhead fans, but a big club, you know.
They're a big club. Probably my worst move as a footballer. And that's no disrespect to Peterhead. That's probably the onus is on me for not being as fit as I probably should have been. But I also then, when I came back from Finn Harps, I then had to get a real job.
Aye.
You know, and there was a whole flip side for me. I had to get a job, and what I had to do for home games was I had to go through on a Friday night, stay in a hotel in Peterhead, get up in the morning, go and play a game, and I just didn't feel myself.
Yeah.
Didn't feel myself. The week later, I would have to drive to Perth, meet the team bus, and then I would have to try and perform. And I just always felt I didn't have anything in me. You know, and obviously I was competing with Dennis Wyness and Martin Babbage and boys like that.
Yeah, big names.
You know, so you're going down there to compete against these guys when you're probably was at 70-80% every week, because I was just done in. You know, I didn't feel sharp. I didn't feel myself, and was always on the bench. But so was Nicky Clark.
Yes,
Nicky Clark was there at the same time, and he was
mad.
always on the bench. And then there was two boys who we knew that we were better than, for example, that were playing ahead of us. So maybe the chip on the shoulder was there again. You know, Nicky's went on to have a great career, you know, in the Scottish leagues, and just one of those that didn't work out. John Sheeran came in and we met in a car park in Inverness. He owned a business around the corner from where I worked, and we met up and he asked me to re-sign, and I says, no, I'm not doing myself justice. I think I'm going to take a step away from the leagues, and at that moment I had already decided to sign for Nairn anyway.
Yeah. We'll get on to Nairn because there's a good chunk to get through at Nairn. Okay, so a two-part of the next question, because it's obviously different, but it might be the same answer. You'll be able to tell me. So, what's your favourite goal you've ever scored?
I had this conversation with Robbie on the way down, and I says, I don't know if I had so many, and he was laughing. There's a few. I love scoring wonder goals at Turriff for some reason. I don't know why. My first year at Turriff, I'll go through a few with you actually, because it's difficult to single out any one of them. It was the first year when Steve Mackay was there, and David Hind and Dale Gillespie, and we were a really good team. And I remember, I think it was probably Robbie again, you know, the goal heading down towards the river on the banking, and it was a diagonal ball, and I was about corner of the 18-yard box to the right-hand side, and it came across me, and I hit it first time because I was that kind of player that if I don't shoot, then I'll never know what happens. And I caught it as well as I could, and it went straight across the keeper and into the top far off corner. So that sort of kick-started the "this is who this guy is" type thing.
Yeah.
It was the last game of the season, actually. Again, at Turriff, when I was at Formartin. Ironic, Chris Hunter was on the bench for Turriff because he was my manager for Martin. Didn't really fancy me. So it was all the sweeter. So I was on the bench at the time, and I was warming up behind the goal. Fraser Hobday.
Good keeper.
Who hates me because I always dinked him. Always caught him off his line. And I was on warming up, and me being me, chirping in his ear. And I says, "You need to stay in your line, Fraser." I was like, "You know what's coming when I come on." And he was laughing with me, and I came on within 10 minutes. The ball had fallen inside the halfway line circle, and I hit it first time. And when you hit one, then you know it. And when you see the keeper scrambling and diving for it, it makes it all the sweeter. And it went straight over him into the roof of the net. And I just sort of went, and he just started smiling. He just started laughing because it was just one of those that, when I listened to Mo's, it was Big Mo, Michael Morrison's one. He says I could score from 40 or score from a yard, and that's who I was. I was really ambitious, as in, if you don't hit it, you don't score.
Yeah.
And for an important goal, one that Finn Harps sort of rings to mind. And there's a funny story behind it. It wasn't funny at the time, but it was funny afterwards. We were playing Cove, and they were top of the league, and they were 4 points ahead of us. And I was always a player that if there was a corner, I would hang out. I always did hang out because I always wanted the wonder goal. Selfish striker, usual. The corner came out, and again I was at the corner, the right-hand corner of the 18-yard box, and it fell to me out of the sky, and I hit it on a side volley, but it was one of those ones that you've hit perfect.
Yep.
And it was still rising as it went across everybody, and it hit the top corner roof of the net. 6,000 fans. The place went ballistic. Which was, I think it was like last 2 or 3 minutes of the game, so we had beaten them. Mm-hmm. We went 1 point behind. Unbeknown to me, a man in the corner had a heart attack celebrating. An older gent.
Wow.
An older gent. So the euphoria of winning the game quickly went downhill when we came back out to cool down, and we were seeing the poor guy getting CPR. Unfortunately, the older gent died.
Jeez.
So us being who we were, a real community club, we decided to go to the wake. Mm-hmm. So I went, and 3 others went. So I walked in the door, greeted by a dwarf, a wee guy. And he says, "Oh, it's yourself, Conor." I says, "All right, okay." He says, come in, meet everyone." So we went in, and obviously tradition in Ireland is you go and see the body, and you greet the family, and that's the wake, you go through, open coffin, blah, blah, blah. So he says, come through, see. I can't remember the guy's name, Jimmy's wife. So we went through to show our respects and condolences and everything like that. And as we walk through, the wee dwarf goes to his wife. He goes, "Oh, this is Conor. This is the guy who's killed your husband, Jimmy." And I was like, you can imagine, I wanted the floor to open up. Yeah. And he was laughing, and she laughed, and that sort of like broke it. But I was thinking, you little shit. You've just thrown me right onto the bus here. And fair play to her, she laughed, and she says, "Do you know what?" She says, "If there was a perfect way for Jimmy to die, it would be exactly in that moment, because he loved Finn Harps and he always spoke about you as a player." And I says, me being me, I'm all like a wee bit like Robbie, trying to make light of it. I says, I don't know what to do here. This is the first time in my life that I don't know what to say. And she goes, you don't need to say anything. She says, he died happy. But to throw me under the bus like that, I was like, wow, what do you do? You know? But yeah, that was probably a special goal for me. But unfortunately, a man lost his life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wow.
Yeah, wow.
That's blown me away, that.
Yeah.
That's a TikTok clip sorted.
That is a TikTok clip sorted right there. Okay. What do you reckon is the best goal you've scored? Just flat out best goal you've scored.
Probably the goal against Turriff, the one from the halfway line on the volley.
Yep.
I think that one over Fraser Hubday was.
You called it before as well.
Yeah, I called it, you know, and I think that's probably the best one I've scored. Purely for the fact that I knew I was going to do it.
Yep.
Didn't think it would be so far out, but I knew I was going to do it, and yeah, that's sort of the belief that I had in myself that
You got any headers that stick out in mind?
Weirdly, I scored 7 out of 11 goals there were headers for Martin in my last season.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, timing probably. You know, I was always half decent at headers, but I think a lot of that was down to who was crossing the ball. Like Daniel Park, for example, was an excellent cross to the ball. You know, as soon as he got his feet, you know, you had to be on the move, and yeah, scored quite a few headers for Martin that year.
Okay, here's the juicy one. Nairn County. So you've got a phenomenal record at Nairn. There's no denying that. Do you know exactly how many goals you've scored for Nairn?
209.
209. Do you know how many appearances that was in?
I think 230s. I think maybe 240. I'm not sure.
So we're talking a goal a game, there or thereabouts, 0.88 or something. I'm working it out in my head just now. So obviously we've heard how it started at Nairn. Did you kind of hit the ground running when you got there?
Yeah, it was Les obviously met me at my work, and he said, listen, we want you to come to Nairn. We believe that you could be a real difference to us, because I played with Les at Ross County. Les was the sub goalie at the time.
Yeah.
And it was that change of direction, come away from the Scottish leagues to knowing that I had to get a real job, and knowing that the injuries I had accumulated over the years, I wasn't going to progress to where my mind wanted me to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I made that decision. But me being me, he said to me, listen, you can come in, we want you to come in, but you've got Steve Mackay in front of you. Not in front of you, you've got Steve Mackay, Craig Campbell at the time.
Good player.
Was maybe there or not going to be there, but he then went on to Alloa, and Robbie Duncanson. I just says, I don't care who's in front of me, I'm better than them all.
Yeah.
And I says, I'll be the best player in this league within 2 years. And the second year I was. I won that trophy, you know. First game goal, and that was it. You know, it really, really kicked on. First season, I think I got 27.
Yeah.
Was playing with Steve Mackay and Robbie.
Was that a front three?
I hope he's watching it. He was a midfielder, but he was the biggest cheating midfielder you've ever seen in your life, and we have a laugh about it. But he was good. He was good, you know, and his height and aerial presence and my relatively decent pace and Robbie's brain and cuteness, we were a real threat.
Yeah.
We were a real threat, and I wished that Stephen, I'm going to stop calling him Stephen because it's been Sid all my life.
Yeah, just call him Sid.
Sid, Dale and David Hind. I believe that if that transition of Brora didn't happen the year after, where they left to go to Brora, I believe that we would have won the league.
Yeah.
Because we really would have kicked on. You know, those three left, and that was the spine of your team. Dale Gillespie, for me, has probably been one of the best midfielders in the Highland League for over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And David Hine was an excellent defender.
He was at Elgin.
You know, he would step into midfield and play. And I really think if we had another year, we probably would have won the league. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But they went on their journey, and it was a successful one, you know, so couldn't fault them for that. But loved Nairn.
Yeah.
Loved the club. Loved the fans. Made some really good friends in the fans as well. Still to this day, we still speak.
Played in some really strong teams as well.
Yes, we had like some really good players. Les was just good for me.
Yep.
Go and do what you want. Go and shoot wherever you want. You have the freedom. After the first year, it was like you're going to play regardless. So go and do what you need to do.
Was just thinking about, was Ronnie your first or second spell?
Second.
Second spell.
Yeah. It was Les was for the 5 years.
Yeah.
So that just gave me the freedom to go and do what I wanted to do. Shoot from 40 yards. If you miss, I'll do it again.
Aye.
You know, but so many good players around me that helped me along the way, and to score 100, I think it was 173 and 178 before I left, it annoyed me because I wanted to be level.
Yeah.
That's just who I am. But yeah, I scored some really special goals with Nairn. Had some great memories at Nairn, some great games, Clyde away, Forfar away. A real togetherness.
Yes.
A togetherness that you don't get anymore. We had some dark moments. You know, I don't want to go into names, but in that time, teammates who lost kids.
Yeah.
Really close friends of mine. Really close friends of mine. And that memories will be there with us together whatever age we are.
Absolutely.
And for example, we were playing Forfar away, the Scottish Cup. A few days before, one of our teammates had his wife lost a baby. We went 3-0 down by half time. We went in, and it was one of those moments where everything just clicked. You know, it was, why are we not coming and giving 100% effort when we've got a really good teammate, a really strong part of the team who's at home right now grieving? Why can't we go out and give 100% for 5 minutes? And we came out and we drew 3 each.
Yeah.
You know, and on the third goal, myself and Cal Donaldson, like, we're 80 yards apart. You know, we both, like, at that moment clocked each other, and it was like sort of like that type thing, you know, and it was just a real tight group where that was what Nairn was based on. Loads of Nairn boys in the team who would give so much, like, you know, they would kick their own wives and grannies to win. And then you had the moments of flair that people had. You had the Mo Morrisons and the Sean Webbs and that, just real leaders who wouldn't let things drop.
Yeah.
I could go on all day, you know.
We've got your we know you played the majority of your career at Nairn, but your 11's very Nairn based. A lot of good players, like say Greg Main and things like that. Mo, you obviously. We'll get into some of the names later on, like Wayne McIntosh. Like, we'll get a little bit into him because obviously he's still there now.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite moment at Nairn?
Difficult to pinpoint.
Yeah.
I've had quite a few.
Maybe a favourite season or so?
I think the season when I had 41 goals, you know, I think that season disappointed me the most, surprisingly.
Okay.
Because by the start of November, I had 29 goals.
Right.
And I ended up with 41.
Okay, that's...
Do you get me? I tore my hamstring. I was out for 7 to 8 weeks.
Right.
You know, and in those 7 to 8 weeks, no disrespect to some of the teams, like your Fort Williams and stuff like that, I probably should have had 60 that season. If you want to, like, break it down to the potentials of what I could have got.
Yep.
Maybe that's me being selfish, saying that I'm disappointed when I had those goals anyways, but like, I won Player of the Year that year as well. So yeah, that's probably my most favourite season. That's probably the season where we played some excellent football and we were pretty relentless, but we came up against a juggernaut in Brora.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's probably a season where the Liverpool who get 90 odd points become second to a team who was by far superior, you know. And to say that is annoying because we were so good, but they were just exceptional, and fair play to them for that. Favourite moment, probably the Scottish Cup games. You know, we go and beat Clyde away. We drew them away and we brought them back and we beat them, and then obviously there's been loads of, we had cup finals and stuff against Wick, and that Wick was a real games that we just thrived on. Yeah, they were so good. Yeah, they were one of the best teams that I've ever seen in the Highland League, which is odd to say. You know, when you had Sam Mackay at full flow and Richard McCaddy, who was 15 years younger than he is now, and Davy Allen's pace was just ridiculous. They give us tough games, and there was always like a 3-something, a 3-2 or a 4-3. There was goals, and it was end to end, and those games always sat out for me. But just some of the goals I scored for Nairn probably would be the highlights of, and ironically against Formartin was the games that I scored some really, really crucial goals that probably killed their season from winning the league. Those games kind of stick out for me because I scored some worldies against them.
I'm just kind of thinking, because you went through a period of like Sid Mackay, like Cammy Keith and all that. Do you find yourselves looking at their goal tallies
every week?
Every week, yeah.
It was the first thing I said when I came into junior. Many Cammy get. Always. Yeah. Many Sid get.
Was that the main two, or was there anyone else?
Mikey Ewan was always one who was floating around when he was from Martin at that time, you know.
Moby, another one.
Never really played in the same time as Moby, you know. He was way before me.
A bit before you.
Cammy Keith would have been the one that I would always, and I'm sure he was probably the same. The first thing he would say is how many Conor got, and I think that's healthy for strikers. You know, it gives you that extra age, that extra selfishness, maybe. That you need to be a striker. And Cammy's been a 2-time Highland League Player of the Year as well, and his goal record is exceptional. And we sort of missed paths at the Formartin stage. He left as I come in, and we always message and says, it'd been good if we could have done that together and see if it would have worked. Because it doesn't always work, you know. But healthy competition, for example, Sid. Me and him have got a relationship as in we want to better than each other, and that's good. And we work together. But he's the busiest guy you've ever seen. He had a spreadsheet from work, and he would update it every week. And it would be an ongoing thing, even before I became a work colleague. It was the same. It was like, I've got a spreadsheet, we'll update the spreadsheet on Monday mornings, and it's healthy. He pushed me on, Cammy pushed me on, Neil Gold pushed me on, and I'm sure I pushed them on because strikers are arrogant. Strikers are selfish. They want to be the top of the tree.
I do.
And only for those guys over those years things may have been different. Maybe not, but it's healthy.
It is. I'm just going to fast forward one of the questions. I want to throw it in just now. Who's the best goalie you've faced in your career?
Simple. Joe Mallon.
Joe Mallon, yeah. I've had a good few mentions of Joe. I think Joe, there's a general consensus in the last maybe 30 years that you've got Kev Main, you've got Stuart Knight, and you've got Joe Mallon as probably your top three in the last maybe 25 years in the Highland League. Do you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah.
It's got to be up there. You know, obviously I had a Carl Donaldson at Nairn was excellent. Of course, you know. Andy Reid was kicking about then too. But Joe's just a different level, you know. I'm so thankful that Joe decided to come out of retirement and come with us this year. Joe's still the best keeper in the league. By a mile. And I've got absolutely no qualms of saying that. what he done in the final against Brora a few months ago was quite scary, to be honest.
Yep.
How he never pushed on and went into a higher league, I don't know. Where things that got done, materialise, logistics, from where we are in the country to where potentially have to move and moving family and stuff away. He is the only goalie that I've ever played against and thought, what am I going to do? How can I... He always says I never scored against him, but I did. But he was always that goalie that I thought, I'm going to have to be very, very accurate to beat him. And I think our players have never realised that until this year in training, when shots are going into the top corner and he's just there, and I often hear, how the fuck has he done that? And I just says, well, I've had the beauty of watching that for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Kicking, left foot, right foot. He hurt his knee and he couldn't kick with his right foot, and we were like, happy days. When at Nairn, happy days. Joe's hurt his knee and not be able to boom it from 118 to the next. Use his left foot and he was doing the exact same. Commanding his area, talking.
Yeah.
Intensity. Obviously, he's probably not as intense now as what he was at Brora, because obviously he's had his Achilles injuries and he's got those. I think he ruptures Achilles. So, but before it was, he would come and claim across it for Brora and he would instantly launch it.
Yeah.
To Xander Sutherland, Andrew Gregg, Steve Mackay, and it would just be like he would start the attack.
Yep.
Like with a throw, he would run to the edge of the box, he would throw it. He was a different level, and he still is. And I'm very thankful, and I'm sure the rest of the boys would say the exact same, that he's protecting our goals, because some of the saves he's made this year are just
ridiculous,
unbelievable, like incredible.
Yeah. Okay, so later stages of Highland League career, Fort Martin. Did that just come about because you were out of contract in Nairn, or just looking for a fresh challenge?
You get the stories. You go for this, you go for that, but it was never that. It was. I'm a winner. At the end of the day, I wouldn't have scored the goals that I've scored if I wasn't a winner.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go and try and win the league.
Absolutely.
The league doesn't define me. Now, when I look back at it, people say, oh, you haven't won the Highland League, you've won everything bar the Highland League. And I say, it doesn't define me, because it doesn't bother me. Surprisingly enough, some people may say that that's weak or whatever, but it doesn't, because in my head, I shouldn't have probably played Highland League.
Right.
So that doesn't define me as a person, that I haven't won that, because I'm in my head I was better and I could have went higher. And that's probably hurts me more than anything.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I thought, go and try and win the Highland League. What a team.
Yeah.
What a team.
Yeah.
But we just come up against Cove and teams like
Juggernaut.
that who were just relentless. We were relentless. If I break down the players in that squad, how we didn't win the league, it's incredible. John Crawford, Craig McKeown, Paul Lawson, Stuart Anderson, Jamie Masson, Neil Gould, Scott Barber, Archie McPhee, Gary Wood, Graham Rogers.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a who's who.
It's like, wow, you know. I turned around, I was on the bench one game, and I turned around and I looked on the bench, and it was Paul Lawson, Jamie Masson, Scotty Ferris, very good player, myself, and I think Neil Gould.
That's mad.
On the bench, and
For
I thought, how this team hasn't won the league. But football's football. You know, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you come up against a team who's not well drilled, but a team of players who just know exactly what they're doing and you've got your Darryl Nichols and your Mitch Megginsons who are just a wee bit different.
Run the show.
Yeah. I love my time at Fort Martin.
Yep.
I love my time there. Scored a few goals, considering I never really played much. But it came to a squad that had Neil Gould and Scott Barber and Gary Wood and myself.
How high was the level of training having all these players?
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's the way. That's why I need training for clock, for example, now, as in you need that intensity.
Yeah.
You would go to training and you knew that you were going to be training hard, and not so much running, but very close friend of mine, speak to him every week, Stuart Anderson.
Yeah.
Just elbow you in the face in training.
Yeah.
As you run by him, and you look at him, he smiles, and he knows it's coming back. But there was never an element of anger. It was an element of, we train how we play. The intensity was high. The standard was ridiculous. And you just knew that. I was only ever meant to go to training once a week, but I often would just drive through twice a week because I just wanted to train.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be there. Couldn't afford to not show my face because of the standard of players that were there training come the Saturday. And maybe it just didn't work out as well as I expected it to.
No.
You know, Chris Hunter and I kind of clashed, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe didn't expect for me to be so chirpy as such, you know. Maybe he had too many stars in his team that he couldn't really play one or two for a long period of time, so I didn't really get that run.
Aye.
I remember one run I scored 7 games in a row, and we played Nairn, and I was unwell, but I wanted to play. It was the first time back at Nairn, and I wasn't good. I was terrible, and he dropped me for the week later, you know, and I says, why you dropped me, and you didn't do well against Nairn. But that's just football. That's management. You've got players knocking on your door, and I understand that now. It told me that he didn't think it was working, and I think that I should look elsewhere.
Yeah.
After my first, this is halfway during the first year.
Okay.
And I said, I'll take a step away just now from the club. So I sort of stayed away for a few weeks. And my arrogance was, you'll need me before I need you type thing. So I took a step away just to gather my thoughts and see what I was going to do. And I got a phone call from him 2 weeks later.
2 weeks.
They had been beaten by Banks of D in the cup, and he says, listen, could do with you back in. You know, we've got 4 young boys on the bench, lots of injuries. And I says, I'll come back for the players, not for you type thing, you know. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a really good guy. He's intense as well. Out with football, he's one of the most spot-on guys you'll ever meet. But in football, he's pretty hardcore, which is fine. That's just the way it is. But I came back and scored the winner against Devon Vale that Saturday. Last minute, he put me on, scored the winner, and then on the week later, I scored a hat-trick against Annan in the Scottish Cup, and sort of just stayed from there. You know, Chris obviously left, and then I continued to be there for the 3 years, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Made some good friends, good connections with people out within the club as well. You know, pretty close with Sandy Sinclair. Sandy's there. He's been there from day one, and close with the tea ladies and stuff. You know, they sometimes come up and stay in my flats and stuff like that. And you know, so real connections, real bonds. Love going back there.
Yeah,
because you're always welcome with a big hug and the lady shouting your name, and a good club. But probably should have done better myself personally there.
Okay.
Probably should have applied myself a wee bit better.
Yep.
The travelling was obviously a huge issue as well. So I think a lot of boys just now who do travel in the Highland League will understand that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, it fairly takes it out of you. You know, especially when you're working all week. You're working from maybe 7 to 3 or 4, and then you're driving to Aberdeen for training.
Yeah.
And you get home at midnight, and you're getting up to go to work again. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. But yeah, loved it. Scored some special goals there as well. Some important goals. Probably should have scored more. But that's just the way life is in football, you know. Yeah,
And
good club.
Did you get the call for Ronnie to come back?
No, the contract had ended. I was there for 5 years, and I was mid-30s at the time.
Yeah.
Really close with Paul Lawson. Worked with him through work. His work, he'd always have to come up and see me for logistical stuff when I worked at an offshore company. And you know, when you get that call and it's a wee bit silence, and I started laughing on the phone. I says, come on, just tell me. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And he goes, oh, this is the one I didn't want to make. I was like, listen, we're footballers. We know when the time's up.
Yeah.
Don't feel like that you can't say to me there's no longer a contract there. We're really close, we talked every day on the phone basically because of work and stuff like that. And I says, you don't need to worry about telling me there's no contract there for me. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably the easiest guy to deal with when it comes to things like that because I'm a realist.
Yeah.
You can't.
That's great. That's
you
what
can't. You can't be. I think maybe the Ross County scenario of you're no longer required.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with it differently, and he said I wish the rest of them were like that, because he let go of all the most experienced players, the Craig McKeowns, the Gary Woods.
Yeah.
That sort of ear had gone
Mm-hmm.
from Martin, which they have to evolve as well, So
Aye.
had a conversation with Graham McLeod, who's a director of football at Nairn at the time. He still is, and I says, "Do you want to take me home?" And he says 100%. And then he says, "I'll speak to Ronnie," and yeah, in we came and got back into that second spell, which I thoroughly enjoyed as well.
Yeah. And again, a lot of goals.
Yeah, the goal from the offset was to hit the 200.
Yeah.
And I think I had 27 to get that. In my head, I'm thinking, when you're 35, 36, I can't remember exactly what age, I thought, will I play as much? Can I still do that on a consistent basis? And I think I scored 16 in the first season back, which I thought was pretty decent considering we
How was the Nairn that you left compared to the Nairn that you rejoined?
Totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different. Like personnel, player-wise, was totally different. It was no disrespect to the players who were there. They were obviously doing their best and they had done relatively well up until that moment that I came back. But, when you lose the Robbie Duncansons and you lose the Greg Mains and the Wayne McIntosh was obviously, he was still from Art at the time, and you lose the Mo Morrisons and the Sean Webbs and the leaders of the group,
Yep.
Totally different change room, very quiet change room. Felt that I had to maybe up my level of experience and maybe annoyed people along the way, but wasn't bothered about that, just wanted to come back and do what I needed to do. Because I love the club. You know, and I still do. Like, obviously, a big rivalry, Clark and Nairn, but still love the club. It's still a good club, great people there.
Yep.
And just like Clark as well. They're a good community club. Very based around the fan base and people who are willing to help.
Absolutely. Clark are a bigger club than the other club in Inverness just now.
Yeah. No comment.
So we'll kind of get on to your management. So, but we mentioned at the start, you're doing very well. You're doing very well. Do you have a style of football that you like to implement, Conor?
Not really. I think you'll see that we change formation to suit certain games.
I like that.
I think it's important. I think
got to be adaptable.
I think so. I think like we've played a lot a 3 this year, and then we've went to a back 4. I think what we've done so far is pretty impressive, to be honest. I think that it's no disrespect to some of the players. Like we've brought in like Jacob Kerr, who's come in from Loch Ness. He played for Loch Ness for 2 years, and he's done unbelievably well. Like he started the season like so well, like surprised us in how well he did. Just as for an example, like against Brora, we went away to Brora where we beat them there a few months ago. We beat them 2-1. We went up with a back 4 of Jacob, Ben Cormack, who's an Elgin boy, who's just turned 19. Jack Mackay, who's a centre midfielder all his life, playing centre half, and young Harry Bray, who's coming in 7th game the Highland League from Stornoway amateur team. And the credit goes to those guys because we worked for half an hour on what we needed to do to nullify Brora's threat, because obviously we're coming off the back of a 6-1 defeat in the cup final, going on 12, only for Joe Mallon. Half an hour, and we completely nullified them. For us to do that against a Brora team that destroyed us 3 weeks prior was something that I was really proud of not as a manager, but proud of the players.
Yeah.
You know, like they knew what they had to do, and that's the kind of team we have. You know, you've put together a back four there that should never be beating Brora. You know, driving up on the bus, and I'm not a fingernail left because you just think this could be bad.
Yeah.
And that's the thoughts, you know. But that's what they've done all season. They've done that all season. They've worked their socks off.
Yeah.
I think we're probably one of the fittest teams in the league.
Yes.
And for me, we rock up on a Monday night and give these boys runs, and I mean hard runs, and not one complains. Never complain. They just do it.
Yep.
And they get on with it. And we're really intense to them, as in, like, the standard has to be up all the time. Because I think if you're lax in training, they'll think that you can be lax in a game, whereas we're not lax in training. We have to have the standard up, because it'll then just be natural come game time.
It will, yeah.
Listen, we have our days where we're an odd team. We start very slow, but we finish games really strong. Thanks, fitness is that's what takes us through those games. And we've got some moments of magic from certain players who, obviously, we lost Conor Bunce, but we've brought in Andy McRae.
Yeah.
You know,
brilliant.
and
fantastic player.
What he's brought to the team since he's come in, for example, is an energy as...
I think, I'm just going to go back to my last episode. Yeah, he's in the 11, so...
Yeah.
It's...
His infectious... his infectious energy has brought a different dimension to the team.
Yep.
You know, Conor Bunce was exceptional player, great player. We didn't want to lose him, but he decided he wanted to move on and try and win the league with Brora. So we made a deal and we brought Andy McRae in. He makes a bad ball a good ball.
Yeah.
And I think for a player to do that, it sort of runs through the team. And it's brought us really together in that sense that if an ex-Highland League player of the year can make that run and not give up, why can't you do it? And it's sort of really rubbed off on the players.
Yeah.
And I see it. And he brings a standard to training, whereas he's vocal, he's gurney. But we need that because we've got a really quiet group. And you now see it sort of filter through the team.
Yeah.
So what we've done with players that out with to become second bottom last year to sitting fourth a new year is crazy. You know, we're way ahead of schedule. You know, but a lot of that's down to the people in the background. You know, Grant Monroe's a huge help to me. Grant's director of football.
Yeah, we
speak every day. He helps push the finance side of things that we can bring in, the Joe Mallons and these players. And obviously we've just signed Greg Morris in there as well. And the board who have pushed that boundaries as well for us, you know. The commercial team who've created an environment for hospitality that is generating income for the club and a main sponsor in HRL who've really helped us.
Yeah.
Ronnie's been excellent as well, and his infectious mentality around the place rubs off on everybody as well. So we've created something obviously over the last 6 months that is really putting Clock back on the map.
Yeah.
You know, and as long as the boys continue doing what they're doing, then people are starting to talk about us again, which is only good for us.
Most successful club in Highland League history.
Yeah, and I said that in my first interview, you know, and I got a lot of stick after my first interview because I said that and because I said they're a sleeping giant. But they are.
Yep.
They are a sleeping giant. You look at the players that have left Inverness to go to Bucky and Aurora, for example, and beyond. Like, obviously, players went to Formartin. Why are they going here when there's a club of this size and magnitude on their doorstep, you know? And a lot of it comes down to finances. So, but the only way you can bring in finances is if you're doing well.
Yeah. You
know, people sit back and talk, and hopefully we can continue to do that, because last year nobody was speaking about us because we were just getting by. Whereas now, I think we've got the third best defensive record in the league, you know.
Okay, right, here's another, I don't get to ask this very often. What's it like to represent your country?
Special. Special, to be honest. It's always a dream as a footballer. You know, you want to play for your country, and even though it was at youth level, it was pretty special, to be honest. It was a very good week for me because I had made my debut for Ross County on the Saturday.
Okay.
I had scored 2. It was my birthday on the Monday, and then Taddy Cooper called me into the office on the Wednesday, and he basically threw a bit of paper across the table at me, and I seen straight away it was the Irish national team symbol, and you know I got that excitement, and he says, read that, and he goes, you're going to Portugal next Monday, and I was like, wow, like this is what I want. This is the dream again, you know. I'm going to relive this dream, and away I went to Portugal. Played Portugal twice over that week. The national anthem, it's always special. Proud moment for me. Proud moment maybe for my mum and dad as well to see that unfold after all the hard work that they'd helped me get through to be in Scotland, and went on to play, I think it was 6 games in total, and went away to...
Did you score?
I scored 1.
Yeah.
I scored 1, yeah. That was at home to, I think it was Czech Republic.
Yeah.
But we played Holland in the European Championship playoffs, and went over to Holland, played in the Excelsior Stadium.
Yeah.
Lovely stadium, really close. Pitch was immaculate. But unbeknown to me, on the opposite team, I know now because I've got the team lines, and Robin, Van Persie, Jan Huntelaar, De Jong, Schneider, they were all on that team. And I started. We beat them, should have scored. Had a glorious chance and sclaffed it wide. But those guys were in that team. You know, we went away 2-1 winners, brought them back to Turner's Cross in Cork for the replay to get through, and drew 0-0. 5,000 fans there watching an under-19s game, you know, green and white and the national anthem, and a really, really good atmosphere. I've actually got photos of me and Robin and a bit of a duel, and the one with Schneider in behind me. It's quite funny because then we would be playing for Martin, for example, and be driving through on a Wednesday night and the Champions League's on. I'm saying I'm going through to play for Martin against Lossie, and Robin's away playing the Champions League against AC Milan. So there was always a running joke and commentary about that, but kind of shows you where people's directions go. You know, it's funny. And he's earning with 100 grand a week and I'm on X. Good memories. Was picked to go to the European Championships in, I can't remember exactly the country that it was in, but we were grouped against England. I think it was Defoe and Sean Wright Phillips and all these guys that era.
Yeah,
that was the team we're playing against. Unfortunately for me, first dislocated shoulder.
Right.
So I was at home in the off season. Was in the swimming pool with my brothers. Dived in. As I tried to come up, the pressure pushed my shoulder out, which is odd.
Aye.
So phoned the manager, Brian Kerr, at the time, and I said, "Listen, I've dislocated my shoulder." And Brian really thought highly of me. He really liked me as a person. I think it's because I was so keen to play for my country. I would literally get on buses and go like 6-hour journeys to Glasgow and jump on planes just to be there, because I wanted to be there. And he took a real shine to me, and he says to me, "Get to Dublin straight away, go and see the first team specialist, assess it and see where we are." And he advised me that if you go in 5 weeks, there's an 80% chance your shoulder will come out again. If you don't go and recover properly, there's an 80% chance it won't ever come out again. It came out again. And that's something I really missed out on. And that's something that hurts me more than anything in football, probably, that I didn't get that chance to go and put myself on that platform. Because I knew I had something and I could have put myself on that platform. And for them to beat England, and for him to phone me on the team bus on the way home personally to say, "I wish you were here," it was nice. Yeah, it was really nice. And he was a special manager. He was different.
That's brilliant.
But then I was meant to go to the World Cup with the under-21s in Abu Dhabi. Went out for a friendly out there, a few games. Dislocated my or I tore my hamstring, sorry, while I was there. Didn't get involved in games. And that was fine. So the manager still said to me, listen, we want you to be involved whenever the time comes, blah, blah, blah. Just go back to your club and keep playing. Which I did. Went back, got fit, was playing. And that's when Alex Smith's sort of era came in.
Yes, aye.
So was playing because I was scoring and doing well. I went away to play for Ireland in Dublin against the Czech Republic. Scored, did well, started the game. While I was away, I remember it clearly because it's annoyed me ever since. While I was away, they played East Stirlingshire at the time, who were not very good.
Nope.
And the two strikers that stood in scored 2 hat-tricks. They scored a hat-trick each. I came home and sat on the bench for 13 weeks, and a lot of it in the stand for 13 weeks after playing regularly and consistently, to going away from my country, scoring, doing well, coming back and completely put in the stand and isolated. And I says, what's going on? They're like, oh, these boys are doing well. And I was like, yeah, but I was your main boy before this all happened. And that's football. We understand that. So the World Cups were on the horizon, and I'm itching because I'm thinking I'm going to miss out. And the Irish manager phoned me and he said, listen, you've not played for 13 weeks, just can't take you. And I was gutted, like I was devastated, because that was another platform that I missed out on.
Yeah.
In that time, in a window of 3 weeks, we played Cali Thistle, and it was a game that we were 3-0 down in, and he brought me on at half time. And we came back and drew 3 each, set up a goal, did really well, caused a lot of problems because I was still relatively quick.
Yeah.
We then played Celtic in the Scottish Cup the week later, which I was really keen to be involved in, being an Irish boy and I was on the bench and he put me on. On the Monday he says, come into my office, and I went into the office, Alex Smith, and he says, listen, can you give me your Ireland manager's number? I want to phone him and tell him that he needs to take you. I just said, no, you're okay. I refused.
Wow.
I refused because I was furious with him, and I think that's where maybe things broke down with us.
Yep.
I refused point blank, and he says, no, I really want his number because I need to explain to him that you need to go. And I says, no, you're okay. I says, you've done this. And maybe that was me being a wee bit shitty and saying that, but that's what I firmly believed.
Yeah.
Because going away, scoring, and coming back and not playing for 13 weeks up until those 2 games, then it was all on him, because I was still training and I was doing everything like that. So I refused to give him the number, and then that was the end of my Ross County time then. And listen, he was a good guy, really, really nice guy. He kind of knew my family from years gone by.
Yeah.
I think my granny's brother or cousin, I can't remember, was Sean Fallon, who was involved with Celtic years and years ago, and he knew him. So we had a bit of a connection, but there was a real breakdown on the football side of things, and that sort of killed me on the international side of things. And then that was my last game for Ireland, because obviously I went away and got hurt in the summer.
Yeah.
And then that was me back to Finn Harp. So yeah, but going back to the question, play for my country.
Yeah.
Incredible times.
Yeah.
Incredible times. The national anthem, wearing the jersey, putting my life and soul into games.
Anyone that you played with that kind of went on to have a big career?
Kevin Doyle went on, obviously, to have a good career.
Yeah.
Glenn Whelan,
Good player, yeah.
good player. There was like John Daly was in that team. He was my strike partner. Paddy McCarthy, who's still involved with Crystal Palace just now. He was Crystal Palace captain for a while.
I heard you briefly mention Paddy McCourt earlier on.
He played for Derry when I was at Finn Harps. He was special.
Yeah.
He was special.
He was I'm a Celtic fan, and one of my favourite players at Celtic. Good for 20 minutes. After that, he wasn't
He was
great.
the most special talent I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I've heard that from so many people who have played with him, that he was phenomenal. It just things he could do with a ball were just not
Wasn't
worth.
quick, but left you for dead.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
I remember a game that he played against Galway. I went to watch them, and there was a boy playing right back for Galway's quickest player I've ever seen in my life. And Paddy Ross stood him up 1v1 and just destroyed him for 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Destroyed him. Even myself, I played on the wing at times, and I played on the right wing, and he played in the left wing, and you're on the byline of the goal, and you're thinking he's going to try and make you.
Yeah.
Keep your legs closed, keep your legs closed. And he just feints, then he makes me, and goes through on goal and squares it. You're just a player that probably, well, he 100% has never fulfilled his potential, because he could have been one of the best players
Yeah.
the UK scene. But yeah, Paddy's Paddy.
Heard a few stories in that respect as well. Okay, proudest achievement in football, Conor?
Difficult one again.
Quite a few. Yeah, there's a lot to be proud of in that career.
Yeah, I think I've won Player of the Year 3 times in my career in a league, and I think that's a special one for me, because that's everybody thinking that you're the best.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, and strikers are selfish, and strikers want to be the best, and I don't think there's many that would have had 3 in their career.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I've been inducted into Nairn's Team of the Century as well, which is obviously a very special one. I mean, your strike partner, and that's Davy Johnson, then, who's Nairn's all-time top goal scorer. It's nice. It's nice to have that. I think those 2 are probably right up there, but obviously playing for your country's
that's huge,
special as well. Regardless, I know it's only underage, but you're then in that elite off. You're one of the best in your country. So yeah, I couldn't really single out any of the 3 of those. Yeah,
combination.
There's a big combination there. Yeah, which really pleased with.
If you're enjoying listening to Football Journals, you can watch us by subscribing for £5 a month to Patreon. It gives you video exclusive. You can ask questions to upcoming guests. You can request guests. I'm probably missing a few other things, but you get the gist. Ryan plays a little thing at the end of the podcast. I'll tell you exactly all about it. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, all the above. 1 to 11 time, Conor. So I'm going to read through it, and then we'll pick out some names and get a bit further into them. So we've got Kev Main on his 2nd appearance in an 11. How is it Craig McKeown?
Craig McKeown.
Craig McKeown. Sean Webb, 2nd appearance for him as well. A certain Mr. Mo Morrison, he'll be delighted he's in here. Archie McPhee, brilliant player, watched him at Elgin for a few seasons. Current Fort manager, Stuart Anderson, he's current in Stilton. Yeah. Greg Main on his 2nd appearance. Wayne McIntosh, who actually still plays for Nairn. Jamie Mason, Robbie Duncanson, and Sid Mackay, who's had his 2nd mention on here as well. Sean Webb, Mo had him in his 11. I can't remember. I should have listened back to what Mo said about him, but he says, was he a ball playing? That I'm thinking about. Try to think back. He says a ball playing centre half.
I'll go to the Sean Webb that played with me at Ross County.
Yep.
He was so good.
Yep.
So good. He was so fast. I know when his time at Nairn, he maybe hadn't got that pace anymore, but if there was ever a race in training, he was right beside me.
Yeah.
And he was very, very quick, and he was obviously 6'2" or whatever, 6'3". So commanding in the air, so vocal, a leader, organizer, dominant just in that area.
Yeah.
And I remember when at Ross County he was a sweeper behind Ian Maxwell, Brian Irvin and Mark Perry. And he was so fast, so he just dealt with everything that went over the top. Were the 3 guys who were so experienced. It was such a good back 4. It was a back 3 but him behind. Obviously he wasn't the same Sean Webb when he was at Nairn, because we all get older and our bodies change differently. But he's a good friend. He was exceptional.
Yeah.
He he's man-marked Ibrahimovic for Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
In that hole, you don't do that if you're not a good player.
Exactly.
I believe he's played against Spain's national team when all the Javis and all were playing, for Northern Ireland, and very good player. As I say, if you had a team of Sean Webbs from years gone by, then you'd be well on your way to success.
Brilliant. We're going to give him a mention just because he's my gaffer, and he actually mentioned you in his 11. Big Mo.
Yeah.
How good a player was Mo?
I think Mo doesn't get the recognition that he deserves, to be honest.
I've heard this before.
People don't like him at times because he was so aggressive, and I love that. People don't like me probably because I was the arrogant wee shit that kept mouthing off in the park. You go into the trenches, you go into battle, you want Big Mo beside you.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. He was good for me for assists as well, because I would love to peel off the shoulder, and he had such a great left foot. He used to hit that diag.
He can ping a ball.
He can ping a ball, and I used to peel off that left centre half, and as soon as I'd done it, you knew it was coming, and it was 9 times out of 10 accurate. Commanding in the box, corners for, corners against.
Yeah.
Aggressive, horrible player to play against, because I played against him when he was a Bucky.
Yep.
And he hit me hard a few times, and I think he realised that I was going to be somebody different, that just kept coming back at him. And when he signed for Nairn, I was delighted. Delighted that I wasn't going to get hit again by him. Delighted he was by my side in a game, because you knew if there was something happening. And I think that's kind of lost in the game now. From then, if something happened to me or Robbie or anybody 70 yards up the park, a tackle or a scrimmage, the first boy in was Mo, and he had to run 60 yards to be there.
Yep.
But he had your back.
Yep.
And I remember a time at Vermartin, myself and Gary Clark, who's a fiery wee guy, we came to blows in the middle of the park. Wouldn't fancy fighting Gary one-on-one in the street, but the first person that was there was Mo.
Aye.
Because they all came at me. All the Vermartin players at that time came at me. And the first person that was there was Mo, between me and them all. And he sent a few flying.
Yep.
And ever since that moment, I always had so much respect for him. I always had respect for him anyway, because he was a good teammate. And I thought, you've got my back. And if I need to go into a battle, you're the first boy I'll call upon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great guy. But a good footballer, people don't realise that.
Unbelievable. I obviously train with him every week and things, and we were doing a shaping drill. I spoke about this a couple of episodes ago, but I'll speak about it again. We're doing a shaping drill, and I'm on the halfway line playing balls in, and he's just collecting the balls that are maybe going over or that and feeding them back at me. He's putting 50-yard balls in with backspin on them, and they're just landing at my feet.
Yeah, great distribution.
Yeah.
Great distribution. And he could play.
Yeah, definitely. Archie McPhee, I loved him at Elgin because he was just a bit different. He played in a team that had good players in it, but a wee bit of flair about him, Archie, sometimes, but also like he took our corners, he took our free kicks, he took our penalties, dead ball, captain's armband for I think a season or so at Elgin as well, but just a really good player. He's one of the most naturally gifted players I've ever played with. Yeah.
And he's in the family as well. He goes out with my sister-in-law.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember him at Ross County when he came for pre-season, and he played off the left wing, and I always knew him anyway because I've known his brother, and I've just known him for years, and I just looked special. How he never got a chance at Ross County. I think he played left back at the time. Was beyond me, because he was fit then. He was quick. Obviously, that pace had left him a wee bit the years gone by. But you wouldn't get the ball off him in a phone box. Aye. His touch was immaculate. The touch never ever left him. Hit that 60-yarder.
Yeah,
he could play the ball around the corner. He could hit a shot from 30 yards and put it in the top corner. As you say, free kicks, deadly. And for me that year, I got the 41 goals. Himself and Robbie Duncanson were a huge part of that. Yeah. If it wasn't Robbie, it was Archie.
Yeah.
And and we had a good connection. We just loved how we all played. We played how football should be played, if that makes sense.
It does,
There was the 1-2s, it was around the corners, there was a telepathic side of things there with him as well. And it was good. And there was a photo, I've still got it on my phone actually, and there's a photo of him playing for Elgin and me coming back at Nairn for my second stint, and obviously we're in the family at that time, and there was a photo of me and him sort of shaking hands and hugging, and I sent him the photo afterwards. I says, I'll be gutted, I'll never grace the football pitch with you ever again, because he was then going away to Australia last season. And special player. Probably should have fulfilled his potential a wee bit more. But good career, as you say. You don't become a captain of a team if you're not a leader and a winner. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm loving speaking about this guy, because Wayne McIntosh is still at Nairn. I know he re-signed, but I think he was maybe 38, 39 years old.
Yeah, I think he's about that,
Yeah. Just a name that's been about forever, in my opinion. He was Nairn, and then he went to, was it Fort Martin as well?
Fort Martin with me, yeah.
And then back to Nairn.
Yeah.
And that's been his whole career.
Yeah.
And he's had probably about 400 or 500 games in the Highland League.
Yeah.
How good a player?
Like Mo, if you go into battle, you want him with you.
Yeah.
That's why I put Greg Mean in there too. Toshi is one of those players that I called him a Jack Russell. He just never gave up. If you got the ball off him, he will chase you down and chase you down and chase you down until he got it, and he would hurt you to get the ball back.
Was he your captain in your first stint?
No.
No,
I actually don't remember who was captain in my first stint.
Second stint he was captain though.
Second stint he was captain, yeah. He's underrated in my eyes, as in how good a footballer he is. He was a very frustrating footballer at the first stint, and as in he would do something so special, like track somebody down, and he would hunt the ball, and he would slide tackle, and he would drive with the ball, and then he would try and hit a 50-yarder and go to the park. Now we always have a running comment, a bit of crack with that one. But yeah, he was horrible to play against, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I did have a wee spell, obviously, at Clark and that when he was there, but he was so good. Like, when you've got a defensive midfielder, he'll just smash somebody and give the ball back, and energy, and I think even at Nairn there, whenever he was maybe 35, 36, he was clocking like 13k on the GPS maps. Like, just different.
Yeah.
Just different. Powerful. He hit me in training one day, shoulder tackled me, I thought I had a wall. So strong. But yeah, very underrated footballer.
Yeah.
Very underrated.
Jamie Masson.
Special player. Special player who should have fulfilled his potential way more than he has. He was much like Archie, as in wanted to play football the right way.
Yeah.
I loved my time at From Martin with him, because we always spoke about, let's just play football. Like, it was always a ball out. He would play off the left, right-footed. The ball would come in, he would hit it first time down the corner, and he knew I would be there. And we always wanted to probably try to overplay.
Yeah.
Because we wanted just to keep the ball and play 1-2s and round the corners, and I just absolutely loved him in my team. And he would come off the left and he would bend one in the top corner.
Yep.
But an absolute nutter. A nutter. Good guy, huh? Can't tell stories, but change room was a very, very exciting one, and probably a lot of the time why I travelled to for Martin on Monday night was because you knew that the stories were going to be coming in, and the crack was there. Special player.
Yep.
He went on to Cove and won the league, and carried on doing that, continuing to be in one of the standout performers, and like Archie, and could have went on and played at a much higher level than what he did. I believe he's in Australia now. I don't believe he's playing football just now. But yeah, good player, different, 6 foot, quick, take a ball anywhere in the park, comfortable, and he can drive with it at pace and do things that you don't expect somebody to do.
Nope. And we'll finish off on Robbie Duncanson, as you say, best player you've ever played with.
Yeah.
How many goals you reckon he's responsible for assisting you?
I would say he's probably up there with 70% of them.
Yep.
Easily. Has to be. Has to be. As I say, just special player. Like, just so clever.
Yep.
Not quick, but nobody could get near him.
Do you used to ever find yourself having to tone it down a bit in training because you're taking the piss out of lads?
No, not really. We just sometimes we take a bad touch now in the game because our legs just don't want us to do what our minds are telling us. Just
you still join in yourself?
We still join in.
Yeah,
we still join in. You know, I think it's hard for us to let go. I think it's hard for us to let go. I think because we can still take a touch and we can still do what we need to do, but sorry, doing that in a 40-yard pitch.
Aye.
It's when you go on the 100-yard pitch.
It's a big difference.
It's a big difference, you know. But yeah, just I would like to special mention for like Greg Main.
Greg Main, yeah.
He is probably one of the most underrated players.
Most said that as well.
In the Highland League. Mm-hmm. He could do everything Toshi could do, but his technical ability was scary.
Okay.
He could zing a ball anywhere in the park. Dead balls, exceptional. Free kicks. And he is one that would 2-foot his mum on a park. And he'll laugh if he's watching this because he knows he would. He was dirty player.
Yeah.
But in the best possible way. Mm-hmm. You know, if there's a 50-50 that's not a 50-50 and it's a 30-70 against him, he still goes in for it.
Yep. Yep.
And you don't have that anymore. I haven't seen that in the league in years, you know, and different.
Yep.
Really, really good player. And as I say, I'm sure you'll probably get people in the future saying that he was a very underrated footballer. Mm-hmm. I actually tried to sign him last year when I first went to Clock because I needed somebody like him.
Aye.
Yeah, maybe couldn't get about the park, but somebody who could have just sat there, could still ping the ball about, but be really horrible when you need it because we really needed somebody to do that. Mm-hmm. But he couldn't commit because of work and stuff.
Yeah. But
yeah, it kind of shows you what I thought of him, that I needed him.
Yeah.
You know, in the trenches.
Sometimes a mentality thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you for the last hour and a bit. It's been really good. We've learnt a lot tonight. I hope everyone listening, watching has learnt a lot. Get along and watch a Clark game because it's absolutely flying just now. I like it because it's quite an open league this season.
Yeah.
You've got all these Bs at the top and things like that, but we've had the last couple of episodes of the league split into 3 leagues, and it is true, but you're in that top bit of it.
Yeah,
and you know, that's where the exciting football's happening just now. There's that middle league where nobody really kind of moves out of it, and then you've got that bottom 3 or 4. Good luck with the rest of your season. I really hope you do well. It's good to see. I always love seeing as well. There's a lot of that is now. Obviously, maybe Richard Hayes just hasn't recently just lost his job, but you've got guys like Sid Mackay, you've got guys like yourself who are not that long out the Highland League yourselves and now doing your own thing, and it's great to see. Final question, Conor, and I think I know the answer. There's a penalty to save your life. Who takes the penalty?
My life's in my own hands.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in penalties, to be honest. I've probably missed 4 in my whole career.
Okay. Did you have a technique?
No, I always mixed it up. I was never predictable. I think it's good not to be predictable in football, but no matter the situation, I would always step up. The only time that I would probably say that I was nervous hitting a penalty was for my 200th.
Okay, right,
it was a penalty for my 200th, and I knew I wanted it. I knew I needed it, and I wouldn't say I was nervous, but I was a bit like, right, come on, you have to do this now. This is your moment. This is what you've come back for. This is another milestone in your career.
Yep.
Keeper got a hand in it, but it went in the net.
Did you ever wait on the keeper?
Nah, not really. Not really. I always made my decision, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I tell my players that now. We had a penalty shootout against Nairn in that Highland League Cup or in the North of Scotland Cup, sorry. And when we were in the group, I says, tell me where your penalties are going now, and we'll deal with it, and don't change your mind. Because I think it's important that you go and step up for a penalty and don't change your mind.
Yeah.
Because if you do, there's a high chance that you'll miss it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think something that I've always put myself on, and when as soon as I put the ball down, I'll just say in my head where you're going. Never change my mind. Never, ever.
Yeah. Brilliant answer. Thank you, mate.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
The Football Journals is now on Patreon. If you sign up on Patreon for just £5 a month, you can get access to our upcoming guests and the chance to ask your own questions, the ability to watch our podcast with full video exclusive, audio only on all other platforms. You can get your episodes earlier than anyone else, sometimes a few days, sometimes a week. You will get your episodes earlier than everyone else. Chance to request guests of your choice. We will do them our utmost to get them on the show, if obviously within reason. I can't go asking Cristiano Ronaldo on the show. And one bonus episode per month. There's already a bonus episode on there. You'll get a further bonus episode every month. Sign up today at patreon.com/footballjournals, capital F, capital J. That's sign up today at patreon.com/footballjournals, capital F, capital J.